Thank you so much, Emily. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Eleanor Falla, and with me is James Coliz. We're from the Microsoft Security Customer Experience Engineering team. We're excited to host this session to bring you a developer's perspective on the Microsoft Sentinel platform. Keep an eye out for more developer webinars diving deeper into these topics in the coming months. So if you haven't already, please join the Microsoft security community that Emily referenced so you can be first on the list to find out about these events as we're going to continue with the community series. Let's take a deeper look into Microsoft Sentinel platform. Since its inception, Microsoft Sentinel has been the industry-leading SIEM solution. Now we're evolving that into the industry-leading AI-ready platform to power agentic defense across the entire security ecosystem. At Microsoft, our strength in security comes from integrating all our tools and expertise into a unified end-to-end security platform. We leverage vast threat intelligence and a broad data platform, ingesting signals across the ecosystem, not just Microsoft. Our solutions like Defender, Entra, Intune, and Purview work together to protect identities, data, and devices, recognizing that cybersecurity is a team sport. With innovations like Security Copilot, we empower analysts with AI, letting humans focus on complex threats while agents handle routine tasks. Ultimately, our goal is to keep customers safe by combining data, intelligence, and teamwork. Our story begins back in 2019. That's the year Microsoft launched the first cloud-native SIEM solution, Microsoft Sentinel. From that day forward, we've been on a continuous journey to modernize the SOC, defending against the ever-evolving threat landscape. That innovation has included bringing SOAR, UEBA, and TIP into the SIEM, expanding our connector ecosystem to over 350 connectors, and driving native integrations with Defender XDR. Along the way, we're proud to have earned the trust of over 25,000 customers worldwide. This year, we've been particularly busy as we build out new platform capabilities and further evolve Sentinel to be both an industry-leading SIEM and industry-leading AI-ready platform. Let me brag a little bit about the industry-leading SIEM part. So Forrester sees us as a leader in security analytics platform for our SIEM capabilities. And it's not just Forrester. We also are recognized by Gartner and IDC as a true leader in the SIEM space. So let's come back to the idea of Sentinel as an industry-leading SIEM and AI-ready platform powering agentic defense. The way we think of this is it brings together unified data and context across a customer's entire digital estate, combines that with the cloud-scale SIEM that we've had since day one, and mixes in an extensible platform where you can build agentic defense for customers. We're going to focus today primarily on the new platform capabilities, so we'll drill down a bit into the unified data and context part, as well as the extensible open platform piece, which of course is very interesting to our developer partners. Here are a few of our platform ecosystem partners. You may see some familiar faces jumping on board to leverage the Sentinel platform. These partners are among the many who have recognized how Sentinel's platform capabilities create new opportunities for them to bring new scenarios to life for customers and bring solutions to market quickly. Now, to take us deeper into these topics, I'll hand it over to my colleague, James.
Awesome. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm James Coliz, developer architect here at Microsoft Security. And so today I'd like to take you through a deep dive through the Sentinel platform, including giving some demos on key features. So we're going to start with this notion of unified data and context. Ask ourselves, well, what does that even mean? So our first question we have to then ask ourselves is, what sort of data and context do we need to power an agentic defense? So for one, we need a lot of data, and we need to keep it around long enough for it to be useful. So the massive volumes and diverse security data types are only really helpful if we can store that data cost effectively and provide ready access to agentic workloads. And this is exactly what we've enabled with our Sentinel data lake. Second, we know that attackers think in graphs. So us defenders need to build these graphs to stay ahead. As a customer, I'm asking myself, what are the assets where I could be attacked and how are they related? Our Sentinel graph capabilities will enable you to describe this rich context in a way that's easy for customers to understand and easy for agents to reason over. Finally, we build an ever-expanding set of tools for agents to find the right data and the right context they need to accomplish their mission. These are all exposed over MCP via the Sentinel MCP server. Okay, so now I'd like to kind of look at each feature that I described and drill a little deeper to look at the components that are going to enable that vision. So the Sentinel Data Lake enables customers to not only centralize their security data, but also retain it longer at cost-effective rates. That helps you as developers because with historical data looking back many years, some really interesting retroactive looking scenarios become available. So we accomplish this simply by adding an additional tier. We call this the data lake tier, and it's added on to the existing analytics tier. So to recap, analytics tier is for data that requires the robust SIM capabilities that we're all using today, such as real-time monitoring, alerts, automated orchestration, and unlimited hunting. The new data lake tier provides customers low-cost storage for all their security data, including all relevant first-party Microsoft data, combined with the third-party data you and your colleagues may be bringing in. This is a purpose-built solution for security data. Now, as a developer myself, I'm impressed, and I hope you're impressed with just how easy it is to move data into the data lake tier. Previously, setting up a mirroring system from a SIM into a data lake can be quite a complex and involved process. With Sentinel Data Lake, it's just a matter of changing a single UI setting, which I will show you a bit later. Right. So once you've got all that data in one place with up to 12 years of historical security data, we naturally want to run some compute over all that data to reduce it into actionable insights. Microsoft Sentinel now has built-in advanced analytics capabilities to run over the data lake to enable both sophisticated data engineering as well as simple summarization for rapid insights. One of the most powerful capabilities now included in the Sentinel platform is the ability to run Jupyter notebooks in on-demand hosted Spark environments. These notebooks enable incredibly rich data engineering activities across both third-party data contributed by our developer partners, as well as first-party data from Defender, Entra, and Purview, for example. Microsoft Sentinel's advanced analytics capabilities over the historical data lake provide a powerful platform for security teams to perform in-depth analysis, also gain valuable insights, and respond to threats efficiently. These capabilities are essential tools for maintaining robust security operations in today's complex threat landscape. And that's what Sentinel's here for. All right. Now, as part of the current public preview, Sentinel Graph powers some key graph-based scenarios in Defender and Purview. Now, in Defender, it powers attack path analysis, blast radius analysis, and graph-based hunting. And again, also some key Purview scenarios. Now, you can look forward to similar capabilities enabled for your own data. Imagine being able to build security graphs which combine your third-party data, that's the data you've contributed to Sentinel, and combine that together with first-party Defender, Entra, or Purview data. This idea is on our roadmap, so I'd encourage you to review the customer public preview to get a sense of what can be done in the security graph space today, and hopefully get excited about what you could do with it in the future. Ultimately, the big benefit of retaining all our security data over many years, as well as building graphs out of it, is to make that available for agents to empower the next generation of security. What better way than to build rich tooling on top of the customer security data and expose it over MCP? So that's the mission of the Sentinel MCP server. An agent connected to the Sentinel MCP server can use natural language prompts to search and retrieve relevant data from tables in Microsoft Sentinel Data Lake without needing to remember the tables and what's their schema and what's the query I need to write in order to address that data. MCP server will work that out for you. It'll write your query for you and get you the data you want. An agent might be looking for insider threats, correlating file activity with purview sensitivity labels to look for, say, data exfiltration or policy violations, suspicious user behavior. Those things might have gone unnoticed over the initial analytics window, let's say 90, 180 days. And so allowing this interactive historical approach allows the agent to recover kind of more information, look deeper, and kind of find these insights that might have gone overlooked. So now, we have our opinions. We think the simplest way and the most effective way to take advantage of all these capabilities is to build a Microsoft Security Copilot agent. So Security Copilot agents are an evolution of Security Copilot that goes beyond generative AI guidance to deliver autonomous, adaptive automation for security and IT operations. As an extension of Copilot, these agents seamlessly integrate with Microsoft security solutions and third-party partners to handle high-volume security tasks. This frees customer security teams to focus on their strategic priorities. So as we move through this talk, I'll show you how you can be bringing customer data that you have into Microsoft Sentinel, combine it with first-party data from Defender, Entra, or Purview, and build an agent to deliver some valuable and important tasks for your customers. Oh, and distribute it through the security store. Okay, so the second of the pillars that Eleanor touched on is this notion of extensible open platform to scale protection. And so let's kind of dig through this today. I've described many of the features in the platform to enable agentic defense. Now let's talk about how you can capitalize on this and help drive your business forward. So the Sentinel platform gives you the ability to create AI solutions that work with each customer's complete set of security data in their Sentinel data lake. These solutions can be distributed through the Microsoft Security Store, helping you reach more customers, grow your revenue, and keep your customers safe. So, yeah, win-win. These capabilities create new opportunities for you to address new scenarios and bring solutions to market quickly without the need to build complex data pipelines or needing to store and process the complete data set yourself. We've taken care of that for you. So three major components to this. So the first one is let's make it easy for customers to bring their data that lives into the system into Data Lake for these rich combined scenarios. Let's make it easy for you to leverage that data and build agents either in Security Copilot or in your favorite environments. And let's make it easy for customers to find these solutions and get them up and running quickly. Okay, so at the high level, this is the AI stack within Microsoft Security to enable developers, again, to empower agentic defense. The foundation of the stack is the Sentinel AI Ready platform, enriched with your unique view of the customer data, which you've contributed into the data lake. That's on the bottom. Moving up from that, we think Security Copilot, as I said, is the best place to present a security-focused agent to customers. Thanks to the Sentinel MCP server, everything in the platform below is available to those agents, and in the future, agents that you build elsewhere. And finally, by distributing to the Microsoft Security Store, you get the broadest possible visibility and quickest path for your customers to get your solution up and running in their tenant. We can dive a little deeper into the Sentinel layer from the previous AI stack diagram. The SIM components are on top. That's everything we know and love about Sentinel today. Components that over 350 developers rely on today with solutions published to Content Hub. All that continues to remain available. Added underneath that, far underneath that, is our cost-optimized unified data lake, where most of the existing data connectors can easily contribute third-party data with no change. The ease of bringing SIM data into data lake is an important point. Now, in between those two outer layers, have the additional modalities like the graphs I described earlier, as well as the many tools accessed through the Sentinel MCP server. All in all, it adds up to a rich and robust platform that enables a wide variety of security scenarios. What scenarios exactly, you may ask? Well, I have a slide for it, and it's right here. So we're just going to talk a handful of ideas here. And there's this, we talk a lot about, hey, you can hold on to customer security data for up to 12 years at cost-effective rates. So now what can you as a developer do that you couldn't before leveraging Sentinel? So this table describes a handful of common scenarios we've seen from initial partners who've embraced the data lake. Eleanor put up a slide earlier that showed a lot of those partners, and this is some of the learning that we got out of their initial interaction. If you're on the call from those partners, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you. Anyway, so here are some of them. Interesting ones are like slow-moving, long-dwelling attacks. These can live for months and months without being detected through traditional analytics. Historical data gives us the chance to kind of root those things out. Historical data also lets us establish a baseline to later determine, is this new behavior normal, or is this anomalous new behavior that we should take some action on? And then, retrospective threat hunting is probably one of my favorites. This is a pretty common case. So imagine a new indicator of compromise is discovered, let's say a malicious website. And of course, now that we've learned that that's a malicious website, of course, we'll just stop traffic to that, and we'll make sure that we're going to detect any interaction with that. But what if there was interaction with that malicious website before we discovered it? Well, that might just get totally lost. However, having historical records allows us to investigate past visits as well and potentially discover previously unknown compromises based on that website. Okay, so scenarios. Now we can talk about how you might bring that together into what we would call a composite application. And this is the model of how you'd bring all these things together into a solution. So the Sentinel platform enables you to build this composite application. It spans an entire end-to-end experience from bringing in the customer data you have, performing detection and response in the analytics layer, and then performing advanced analytics with data lake jobs, authoring custom agents, and then publishing those in the store so end users can discover and easily leverage them. So for each of these components in the model, I'll describe it in more detail and then show a demo of each one. Okay, so let's go have a look. I think this is the point where I need to turn my camera off, so I'm gonna do that. My camera. Okay. All right. So the very first step toward working with third-party data in Sentinel Data Lake and then to build an agent on that data is to get that into Sentinel using a standard Sentinel connector. So many of the 350 plus solutions in Content Hub today meet the requirement for Sentinel Data Lake, so customers can get started today. If you've already published a Sentinel connector in Content Hub, you'll just need to check that it uses a data collection rule pipeline and you're all set. If you don't already have a data connector solution in Sentinel, that's the place to get started. So let's just have a look at how we simply install one of those connectors to bring data in. All right, let's install a connector and bring in some data. I'll start here in the Defender portal. If you've been following Sentinel lately, you know that Sentinel is moving to the Defender portal. In fact, all of the new features of Sentinel light up in Defender portal, so we're highly recommending this. You can find the Defender portal at security.microsoft.com. There we are. Okay, great. So here is our navigation pane. I'll expand Microsoft Sentinel. I'll pick Content Management. I'll go into Content Hub, and I'm going to make sure I'm in the right workspace. Yes, I am. Great. I'm going to search for my solution here. Great, infinity mirror, we're going to use that. Pay no attention to the deprecated tag. Now, I would install the solution here. It would say install. I've already installed it for the purpose of the demo. So I'm just going to go ahead and click manage. I can see that this is a pretty simple connector because I wrote it myself. It's not doing a whole lot, but it is bringing data into Sentinel, and that's the important part here. Okay, so I can see I have just one piece of content in my solution. It is a connector. The data connector now is ingesting logs from the API into Sentinel. It's built on the Coliz connector platform. It uses, you can see all this. Oh, it's actually connected already. But no, anyway. So open connector page. Great. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and connect this connector. Pretty simple stuff. I'm going to go ahead and copy my URL. Great. I'm going to put in my API token. Don't copy my top secret token. Now this is a bug. Obviously it should have asterisks here, but I just started working on this anyway. So we'll connect this, starting deployment. We'll wait for this to continue. Finish, deployment running. And deployment succeeded. Yay. Okay, so it's that simple. This is now running in the background and it's pulling data from my service into Sentinel. Okay, great. So as with all Sentinel connectors, the data comes in through the connector will show up in a table, either directly in Data Lake or in a log analytics table, and then mirrored to the Data Lake very easily. This is a big advantage to using Sentinel Data Lake over a bespoke, customized Data Lake approach. Just one simple UI setting, and now our data is mirrored in Data Lake. So let me show you. All right, again, we're starting in the Defender portal. I'll open the Microsoft Sentinel pane, and then I'll pick configuration and then tables. Great. I'll filter down to the table that I'm interested in because this is showing all 795 of my tables. So let me just search for the one I want. I'll choose that. It brings up a details pane. I'll manage the table. And I have a couple options here. I can keep the data in analytics tier for a little while so I can run my analytics rules and playbooks. And in addition, I can place data into longer term storage by extending the total retention period. Or I could choose to place that exclusively in Data Lake tier and not pay for it at all in Analytics tier. So what I'm going to choose here is I'm going to choose a longer setting. So I'm retaining the data in Analytics for 30 days, and I'm going to retain it in Lake, which is the total retention. I'm going to retain that for 3 years. So I would go ahead and save this, and as soon as I do that, now my data is in Lake. It was just as easy as that to set up one simple little change, and now my data is mirrored into Lake. Once the data is in the lake, we can hunt over it there as well. This is similar to advanced hunting in analytics tier. However, we have the full historical data going back as many years as we've enabled for both our third-party data as well as first-party data. So we can join across them and dig back really far to do some good kind of historical analysis. So let's take an example. I'll start again in the Defender portal in the Microsoft Sentinel pane. I will dig into Data Lake Exploration and then pick KQL queries. So for my first query, I'm going to summarize the results that I received from my connector. So I can see here's my table, taking out the debug stuff, and I'm summarizing it by how many threats were found here by user, what they interacted with, and I can see some information. So I can see this Rash46 user has been pretty active. They've interacted with a handful of interesting assets, quite a bit, and these two users look a little less problematic. They've just kind of maybe touched on them once, so these are probably less of a problem. So, I can just query that. This goes back really far. far. How far do I have? Well, it goes back pretty far. And so I can see that all there. Now, the interesting thing that I can do is I can augment this a little bit. So I took the same query that I just did and I put that into detected intermediate table. Then I'm also going to join across the sign-in logs. So I'm going to look at all the sign-in logs and find out when all the users last logged in, and then I'm going to join those together so I can see when my troublesome users last logged in. And now this query may take a little bit because could be going back over years and years of data. And those of you who are KQL experts may notice that there's certainly some optimizations that I could do on this query. So we're just going to let this run and come back to it when it's done. Okay, there we are. So I can see my troublesome user here, Rash46. I can look at each one and I can see that they last logged in, a few days ago. So this week, so this is still an active user and someone I'm gonna want to pay attention to and maybe investigate a little further. Okay, after our data is in the lake, we can use it in Jupyter Notebook jobs or KQL jobs. These jobs range in complexity from simple KQL summarization queries all the way up to full-blown machine learning models. Insights from these notebooks can be stored back into the lake as another table or even sent back to the analytics tier to be used in SIM detection and responses. Importantly, our Jupyter Notebooks and KQL jobs are not only considering data you've contributed, but also use the full range of Microsoft-provided security data from Defender, Entra, or Purview. Combining these data sources can, in fact, yield very powerful insights. So I'm just going to work through an example of the Sentinel Notebook side just to catch up on time a little bit here. And so let's do that. All right, while KQL queries are great for simple summarization tasks, the Sentinel platform also includes a much more powerful capability. Those are Jupyter Notebooks hosted in on-demand Spark environments. These enable a rich data engineering experience directly against all the first and third-party data in the lake. So for this experience, I'll be starting here in Visual Studio Code, and the first thing I'll need is the Microsoft Sentinel extension to VS Code, and so we can see it here and all the various features that this is going to enable, including developing notebooks. And let's jump back to our notebooks here. This is from our documents, our documentation page. So you can find all of these code samples here, and we can see the various kind of scenarios that are enabled in this sample notebook. So quite a number of different things we might want to go look at. We're going to go back up to the top and dig into failed sign-in attempts analysis. So we can kind of do a little code review here. So we can see this process data function is going to be able to extract failed sign-ins from a given table. We will process the data on two different tables, go ahead and union that, print the result textually, and then we're going to go ahead and create a little bar graph out of that. So I would then run this in an on-demand Spark environment, but for the purposes of expedient demo showing, I have already run it. So we can see the logs from that run. And then here is the outcome of the various failed sign-in attempts, including the number of them. And as well, I can see the bar graph showing the top users and the most kind of problematic users I should go have a look at. So that is kind of authoring that. I can also set this up to run regularly. So I'll go into Microsoft Sentinel, create scheduled job. I'll give it I'll give it a name and decide which pool I want to run on, and I'll say how often I want it run. I'll run it, basically all the time. Great. Yep, super. And then it will run indefinitely. Super. So now that I can go ahead and come back up here, press submit, and this will go ahead and run this regularly, and then every day I can come back and look at the latest outcomes of this and see what can be found. Okay, so we've got the data here. Perhaps we've already used a notebook job to tease out some further insights, but ultimately our goal is to create an agent using this data. So for today's demo, I'm going to create a really basic hello world agent. It's just going to create a report confirming that Security Copilot can see and make some degree of sense out of the data that I've showed you that I brought in using my connector. Okay, first, let me show you the agent I've created, and then secondly, we'll walk through how we can create that ourselves using Security Copilot. Right, so we're starting in Security Copilot, securitycopilot.microsoft.com. Security Copilot agents are here, yay! So let's go to agents. Great. Here's some agents we could set up, but I've already set up my agent. So I'm going to come down here to agents in use. I'm going to search for my agent. Great, there it is. Here I see Infinity Mirror Summary Agent V3 by yours truly. Let's click go to agent, see what's happening here. Okay, so we can see what this is about. This summarizes the data available in Sentinel coming from the Infinity Mirror service. Again, as I told you, this is a pretty basic agent. It's just going to kind of confirm data is flowing and understand that there's data here. And again, this agent runs manually. There's not an automatic trigger, but of course, if I wanted automation, I could run that on any kind of regular trigger and get these insights done regularly. I'm going to go ahead and just kick off a run in the background so we can see that that's going. So we don't have to wait for that. I'm going to go ahead and click on results. Let's go into the 9.9. Here I can see this ingestion report. So it's got an executive summary, has ingested 22 deception events from brief triggers to extensive multi-hour activities, varying duration, rapid detection, so on and so forth. Great. I love how it just wants to say great things about my scenario. This breadth highlights the platform's effectiveness in identifying and correlating attacker behavior across diverse scenarios. That's great. I asked it to generate a little table and tell me about how long are these sessions and how many were brought in and when it was all done, so we can kind of see that table that it created. I could even export that to Excel if I wanted. I asked it for some key insights so we can see what we have here, multiple days, proactive deception monitoring, and then of course it's going to glaze my solution. Infinity Mirror's integration with Sentinel provides rich, actionable content for security teams, enabling rapid detection and deep forensic analysis. Let's go. All right. So that's the report. That's what I can see. I can dig under the covers a little bit. I can go look at the activity that's happening here, see the activity map. Not a ton going on. It's pretty basic. Agent, but we can go to the session. We can kind of look at the steps that it took. It resolved the skill, it found the skill, it called the tool, processed it. Great. Yep. Here's what it gave us. We can give it a happy. It looks great. It's accurate, clear, and complete. We love it. Okay, great. Here we can see the exact data that it came back with from the platform as well. So we can get pretty deep in what's going on in an agent. Back out. Yep. And so back to here. Yep. So this is a single run of the agent. Okay, now let's build this agent. So we're still in Security Copilot, and I will go click on the build pane here in the navigation pane. So I have a lot of options. I could just take a natural language approach, describe what I want. Security Copilot and I will have a little conversation about what we want to build together. I could upload a YAML manifest that I already worked out because I know what I'm doing in YAML, which I maybe don't actually as much. Or I can start from scratch, which is sort of the experience I prefer. So I'll click into here. I'll give my agent a name. I'll give it a description, tell it who I am, what I want to work with, and then the all-important creation of tools, give it triggers, and then I would go publish my solution, my agent, up to be worked with. Now, probably easier to just start with something I already have. So I can scroll down to my agents, and here's the agent that I just showed you. And now we can dig under the hood and see what it looks like under there. So here is the name that you've seen a few times, as well as the description that shows up. There's me, the all-important tools that we'll come back to, triggered manually, and no particular permission constraints going on here. So let's go look at the tools. So the Infinity Mirror summary is really the tool that we care about. This is the kind of root tool that starts everything, and it's an agent tool type as opposed to the others that are available. Again, display name and description you've seen before, and here's the all-important agent instructions. So I've structured my instructions. I gave it a purpose and a role. I've given it some background information so it knows what it's doing, including pointing out that it is a fictional solution, but here's what it's doing so the agent knows what's going on. And then here are the steps, and this should be exactly what you remember seeing before. So go ahead and fetch event sessions using this skill that I'll show you shortly, but I'm naming the skill exactly because I know what I want it to do. Then I want a summary. So I wanted how many sessions, what was the duration, so on. Present this in table form with one row for each session. You saw it do that. And then provide a report showing the insights and include an executive summary. You saw that. And then I always want to know what version I'm running, so I put that in there, and here is the version. So that's great. So pretty simple instructions, but you saw it do exactly what I told it to do. In order to do that, I've given it some tools, and it's actually fetched assumption event sessions is the one I ended up using. Let's go look at that. Go to the top. So this is a KQL tool. Fetches sessions, fetches one line for each session, so it knows what's in each one. It is going to work against Sentinel, as opposed to other places it could get data. And here's the template, and here's the all-important query. So I'm saying here's the table that I showed you before, events generated in the last year, and then here's the summary that I want by each session. So I've kind of pulled out the session, and I've got how many of them and when we're done, and then Copilot was able to figure out all of the rest of those things. So that is really it for what my agent looks like. I can go look at the YAML if I want. So here is the instructions and the query. It's pretty simple stuff. Of course, I can download that, which I will need later if I'm going to publish it. So that's all good. Once it's there, I can come over and test it. What I want to do first is publish my agent. So the idea is I'd publish it for myself only. And once I'm done, I could then publish it for everyone in the workspace, and everyone could go ahead and work with it. Now, I'm not going to actually publish in this case because I don't want to overwrite what I've already put here to show you, but you get the idea from there. Okay, cool. So that's creating a Security Copilot agent. There's also the ability to get this same information out using the Sentinel MCP server. Now, if you noticed in that case, using the KQL skill, I did have to handcraft that query. I know my data pretty well, so that's pretty straightforward for me to do. But if I'm working with data I don't know as well, it might be great for the MCP server to, the tools within that to craft that query for me. So I'm going to show a demo of the current state of the Sentinel MCP server. Right now, we can explore these tools using the GitHub Copilot chat within Visual Studio Code. And of course, we can look forward to a future where you can build agents in the environment of your choice, relying on the tools provided by the Sentinel MCP server to fetch data, obtain insights, or take action within Sentinel. Okay, for today's demo, we'll stick to GitHub Copilot chat within Visual Studio Code. Okay, starting in Visual Studio Code, and I have my demo steps right here in case I forget them. So step one, we'll bring up the command bar here with F1. We'll pick MCP add server. We'll pick the HTTP transport. And now I'm going to need the URL. This is available in our documentation page, of course. Sentinel MCP Server has two endpoints, one for exploring data and one for creating Security Copilot agents. I'm going to put in the data exploration URL, so I'll paste that in. It wants a helpful, friendly name, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll paste in a name as well. And I want it available in this workspace, and great. So it created me an mcp.json file. It wants to authenticate, which we will need because this is private information. And we can see that my client is now running to this server, so that's fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to bring up a Copilot chat, and we're going to close these things. We're in agent mode, so that's great. Just for additional fun, I'm going to bring up the chat debugger. And now we're ready. We have an agent here that we're developing, so we can go give it a try. I'm going to go grab a prompt from the docs. Let us find sign-in failures and give me a brief summary of key findings. Okay, so off we go. All right, so it's found its first desire to call an MCP server endpoint. I'm going to go ahead and allow it in this session. Another query it wants to make. Another tool it wants to use, rather. All right, so we can see it is now going to generate a Custo query for me. So sign-in logs were time generated this day, result type, failure count, It's going to make a nice little summarize query and take the top 20. Great, looks good. Let's allow that one in this session as well. Gave it permission to run the Custo query executing tool, so it just accepted that it's just going to keep running that. I got an error. Oh. It appears that it stopped working. So let's restart the tool. And I can start to see some insights coming in now about the sign-in failures that we're most seeing here. Now it's going to kind of summarize those, some key security concerns, and give me some steps I can go take to perhaps make things better in my tenant. Okay, there we go. And so this is an agent that I'm sort of developing right here in Visual Studio Code. And of course, we can again imagine a future where we could be publishing this agent and coming up with our own instructions and everything like that, and put that in anywhere in our choosing, still getting these same insights from Sentinel. Great. So the next thing we want to do is we want to package this up and make it available for customers. Now, I will point out that at this current moment, publishing Sentinel platform solutions for customers is in a public preview state. And so the new platform components that I've showed you here do need to be packaged a bit separately and submitted to the security store somewhat separately from the existing Content Hub solutions. In the future, of course, we can look forward to this being converged into a single solution. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that package that I generated kind of in the previous step, and then I'm going to go ahead and submit that to Security Store. Now I'm going to, again, for the purpose of compressing time here, I'm going to skip over the actual steps where I take and publish and create that zip file, but it's pretty well documented, and you can see that in the docs. So now I have got my package, my platform solution package file, and we're going to publish that using the Microsoft Partner Center. So here we're logged into Partner Center, and I've picked marketplace offers, and I'm now looking at my public offers. And so we're going to come over and we're going to hit the plus new offer button to create a new offer. All right, great. And so I'm going to answer some questions about how we want to handle transaction and licensing, and then we'll scroll down and we will indicate that this offer integrates with Microsoft Security Services, which gets it into the security store, and that's very important. I'm going to be able to control how and where it should appear by adding the security-specific metadata. So what particular services I'm using and what particular services my solution integrates with. And then, of course, this will be a deployable solution in this case, so something that a customer will deploy into their tenant. So I'm going to be sure and click that. And then finally, we're going to come down to the bottom, plus upload new package, which will upload the package, and then I'm going to publish it. So from there, the offer goes out, and customers can discover, purchase, and install that. So now that our package is in the store, we're going to next look at it from a customer point of view. Okay, so are you ready? We have a 20-second speed run of the Security Store customer experience. So hang on, and here we go. Okay, so we're in the Security Store. We are going to look for agents. Lots of agents here. How about Defender agents? There's one. No, there's one. We're going to pick that. Let's get it. Look at the details. Look at the details and buy it. Great. We've bought it and we're going to use it. We're done. It's that easy. Awesome, right? So I just installed that in 20 seconds. And now the customers have paid us as the developers and they're running this solution. So that's awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. So that is our content for today. I really appreciate you paying attention. Looks like there's been a lot of great Q&A going on as well, so thank you for that. This slide here links out to documentation on everything we've talked about. So whenever I've referred to, hey, this is in the docs and you can find this, it's all right here on this list. There are also blog posts which talk about each of the individual items. So please, when you get a moment, go ahead and review these links. Go ahead and experiment with some of these features and see what you find. So the action that we would point you toward is, go ahead and bring your data into Sentinel, the customer's data that you uniquely have. Go ahead and experiment with building a composite solution from these platform pieces. You can look into the Security Copilot agents that you can build now. And then, of course, publish those composite applications that you make to the Security Store. And, oh, by the way, you don't even need to publish new stuff. You can take your existing SaaS applications, if they integrate with Microsoft Security, and publish listings to list those in the Security Store as well. So there's a link here to that. If you are building a connector and you need a little extra insight or advice while building and publishing a data connector, the Aperture program is here to support you. So you can see the email address on the screen, Azure Sentinel Partner at Microsoft.com. Reach out to Aperture for some more help there. We'll be happy to assist you on your journey. And then, of course, we must acknowledge our friends in the Microsoft security community who have really helped put this all together and host a great community for everyone to join into and find a lot of great resources, and also give you the chance to connect with other developers and customers in this space. So really recommend you join us in the community itself there as well. And so thank you again very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, James. We have a few questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and start reading some of the questions, and the team can help answer those. So first question, can we ingest real-time data as well into Data Lake tier? The answer to that is yes. Data that flows into Log Analytics tier is made available to the lake automatically with mirroring. There is more information about this on our docs pages, so please go check those out if you haven't seen those already.
Yeah, and can I touch on that just a bit?
Of course, please.
So as someone who comes from the embedded world, there is always a debate about what does real time mean exactly. And so the speed at which that comes through is what I would call pretty quick. But the real-timedness of it is certainly something that I would encourage people to experiment with to see if the times meet their needs. Do we have anybody from the product team that might want to talk about the time frames of ingestion? No, it looks like not. So yeah, I would just recommend to experiment with the time frames there that you see, but it will come in pretty quickly.
Perfect. Next question, is there still a limit for changing a table to Data Lake and back to another table type? I believe it is 7 days for changing tiers. And looks like you can switch table settings at any time. We do have more information on this on our docs pages as well. James, did you want to add anything on changing
that one? I don't have anything on for the limits around the changing back and forth. I've certainly changed them a fair bit myself, and it seems to work fine. But I don't have that. Sorry.
Great. Another question: are the meters for Data Lake covered by the Sentinel pre-purchase plan. Today, Sentinel data lake meters are pay as you go. We do have a pricing calculator available within our documentation, so I would check that out to see to assess any costs that may be associated with Sentinel.
Yeah, there's a whole pricing page right there near the top of the Sentinel Lake documentation, and that should have all the pricing information in it.
Yeah. And then James, a very nice question that came in. Can you clarify and elaborate on the querying capabilities in Data Lake? If agents are designed to access that data via queries, how is that going to work?
How is that going to work? So a broad question, and so there's a few ways it can work. So the example that I showed in Security Copilot was that I used a KQL skill to query the data in Lake. And so that is a case where I understand the structure of my data in Data Lake, and Security Copilot has the ability to reach over to Sentinel and make a KQL query that I have crafted and bring those results back and then reason over the answers. So that is one way to do it, using the KQL skills in Security Copilot. And then I did show another way, which is the Sentinel MCP server allows, or will allow in the future, access to Sentinel Data Lake from an agent running elsewhere. And in order to do that, it would leverage one of the MCP tools available. There's a Query Lake tool in the MCP server. Again, this is all in the documentation kind of pointed to right here, Sentinel MCP server. That link will explain the data exploration capability. And again, I used the Query Lake tool, or the agent used the Query Lake tool to query the lake. And then there are tools in there as well which can craft those queries. So the idea is that the agent itself or the user doesn't necessarily need to handcraft those queries, but ultimately it's going to boil down to a KQL query that will be sent to Sentinel Data Lake using the Sentinel MCP server, and then that data will come back for the agent to reason over.
Perfect. Great question here. Would it be possible to use an out-of-the-box connector to onboard secure wow, sorry. Would it be possible to use an out-of-the-box connector to onboard secure score data into Data Lake? Is there any documentation or a known connector for this?
So as far as the capabilities of particular connectors, as we said, there's over 350. I think there's quite a few more than 350. And so I don't have ready in my mind all the available connectors, but I would encourage someone to go through the connectors of Content Hub, maybe, ask Copilot that question, and see if it can help find connectors in the, of our vast array of connectors that would provide that information.
Awesome. A question on agents. Once we create the agent, can we modify it, like adding more tools after publishing?
Of course, absolutely. And that is the agent building experience is totally set up for that, and it's actually really good for that. I showed you running through my agent, and I was about to publish changes. I could have made a couple changes, republish it, and then it's right there. So the kind of agent editing experience is actually really super smooth in the agent builder, and I quite like it. So yes, for sure.
Yeah. Another question, if we ingest data into Data Lake, can we still access it from Sentinel and build detection on it?
Right. So this comes down to the tiering that we talked about. And this is probably a good question, a good time to jump over to the tiering slide. If I can just scroll through my memory banks and find it. Yeah. So it comes down to what tier is the data in. So if we want to run our analytics rules and our normal SIM capabilities on data, then that needs to be in the analytics tier. And so the typical path for that is connector brings data into the analytics tier, and we retain it in the analytics tier for a short period of time. I think 90 days is normal for that. And during that period of time, that data is available for analytics. And then for historical data, those are not directly available to analytics rules. So you've got a couple options. One is to run some of the more advanced analytics capabilities I described today with notebook jobs. Or another one is to run a notebook or KQL job on it and then summarize that. And then the result of that notebook job can be placed back into analytics tier, and then analytics rules can run on that. So it really depends where the data is and what kind of compute process we want to run over that. So, in summary, analytics tier is for the SIM components that we have today in SIM solutions, including analytics rules, and the data lake tier is going to be where we run our kind of more advanced analytics front over time.
Amazing. Thank you, James. So I believe that is most of the questions in the chat answered. Thank you all so much for submitting those. And I'm going to hand it over to Emily to wrap up the session for us today.
Thank you. And thank you to James as well for being our guest today and for sharing all of the great information with our community. Also, thank you to the Q&A team who helped us with answering the questions and providing all of the resourceful information. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and a desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/securitycommunity. This is also where you'll be notified about upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/Microsoft Sentinel Community. These links that were shared by James today will also be added in our YouTube caption. So if anybody needs access to those links, please feel free to head over to our YouTube at aka.ms/security community videos. Thank you all so much for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.